Hey there, folks. Welcome back to our Feel Good channel, where we delve into topics that hit close to home. Today, we're going to unwind a bit and chat about something that's very near and dear to many of us. Yes, you've guessed it. We're diving into the cozy world of intergenerational living. Sounds familiar, right? Intergenerational living, to put it in simple words, is when multiple generations of the same family cozy up under one roof. You remember those Sunday barbecues at Grandma and Grandpa's house where there was always room for one more? That's essentially it. Now, you may wonder, what's bringing this age-old idea back? Let's brew up some facts while we're at it. Our current economic backdrop is a potent factor. With the cost of living soaring higher than a toddler's balloon, sharing resources just makes sense. Then there's the emotional aspect. Families want to stick together, keep each other company, and feel that sense of togetherness. Lastly, in this breakneck world we live in, having your loved ones nearby for emergency babysitting can be a real lifesaver. Let's take a step back in time and cheers to the visionaries who championed this golden concept. Sociologists like Margaret Mead and anthropologists like Ruth Benedict were amongst the earliest proponents advocating intergenerational living. They understood that the family is more than just a social unit. It's a mini society with a wealth of knowledge, care, and emotional support. They believed that bringing generations together would not only strengthen family bonds, but also heighten societal harmony and growth. Ain't that such a heartwarming notion? The simple idea of everyone coming together, creating memories, sharing their joys and sorrows, and most importantly, building stronger bonds. So that's intergenerational living for you in a nutshell. Stick with us as we delve deeper into this topic and bring you more wholesome and heart-tugging stories. Keep smiling and see ya soon. So let's kick off with the mid-20th century, a time when it was quite common for multiple generations of families to share one roof. Coins clinking together were hard to buy back then, and with little social support or pensions, the elders relied heavily on their children for care in their twilight years. Meanwhile, the youngsters learned some valuable life lessons from their elders, spinning a cycle where everyone gave something and got something in return. Next stop, the late 20th century, the groovy era of progressive thinking that saw swing back towards independence. Young adults were raring to spread their wings faster, and flying the nest became the order of the day. Meanwhile, social safety nets improved, and thanks to advances in technology and healthcare, the oldies could live independently for much longer. The living together trend waned, and families sprawled out, sometimes even jumbled across different continents. Fast forward to our exciting 21st century. Here we are in a kind of back to the future situation. The skyrocketing cost of housing and childcare, coupled with the long-term squeeze on incomes, is leading many families to rethink how they live. An interesting mix of economic necessity and a longing for a stronger sense of community has seen a revival of the multi-generational way of living. But this time, it's not just about families. There's a growing movement for specially designed intergenerational living communities. These planned neighborhoods are built with both the young and the old in mind. They aim to encourage interaction between the generations, fostering a sense of connection and mutual support. It seems pretty cool, huh? And here we are, a mix of the old and the new. The practicality of the past, the independence of the late 20th century, and the community-driven focus of the present. It's a mishmash, really. But hey, that's what living generation to generation is all about. Diving right in, let's chat about some of the big players in the world of intergenerational living research. First up, a professor of economics at London Business School who co-wrote The New Long Life. He is passionately arguing that the key to addressing the challenges of an aging population is intergenerational living. Then there's Nancy Henkin. As the founder of the Intergenerational Strategies Group, she implements and promotes strategies for boomers, millennials, and everyone in between to live together harmoniously. For Henkin, it's all about breaking down those generational barriers. As for advocates fighting on the front lines for policy supporting intergenerational living, Donna Butt stands out. As executive director of Generations United, an organization advocating for intergenerational policies, she's been calling for improvements in housing, community planning, and resource sharing between generations. She ain't messing around. But it's not all theoretical. Let's walk through an example of an influencer making waves in this field. Picture this. Dr. Roger Landry, a preventative medicine physician advocating for intergenerational living to promote health and fight loneliness among older people. This ain't his first rodeo. He writes about this stuff in his book, Live Long Die Short, A Guide to Authentic Health and Successful Aging. Pretty cool, huh? Landry's concept, encapsulated in his book, is hinged on the idea that intergenerational living could result in valuable life lessons for youngsters and a sense of purpose for seniors. Yeah, you heard it here first. Dr. Roger Landry is shaping the course of intergenerational living through this revolutionary perception. So there we have it. Those are some of the true champions of intergenerational living. You remember when the idea of intergenerational living first started making the rounds? Folks were a bit mixed on it, to be frank. For some, the thought of living under one roof with grandma and grandpa, mom, dad, and the kids sounded like a great deal. A full house bursting with life and love. Yet, for others, their faces would scrunch up the way you do when biting into a real sour lemon. They prized their peace and independence just a bit too much to consider having everyone in each other's space. But then the attitudes began to shift. Slowly first, but surely. We saw people starting to recognize the real beauty in the system. Sure, it wasn't everyone's cup of tea, but it suddenly wasn't such a far-off idea anymore. What changed? Many realized that it all came down to support. Aiding grandma in her old age, the kiddos having a bunch of live-in babysitters, parents having some help around the home. It wasn't so much about sacrificing your privacy, but more about sharing your life. Nowadays, public opinion is even warmer towards the idea. The image of an idyllic home where the youngest ones are learning about life from the eldest. Where the middle-aged are supported instead of exhausted suddenly doesn't sound half bad. It seems more and more families are embracing the concept. In fact, even designers and developers are jumping aboard this bandwagon, using it as inspiration to create communities with intergenerational interaction built in. So while the initial reaction might have been a bit lukewarm, this change of mind was a reminder of how adaptable we can be. And looking at the state of things now, it's quite clear to see living intergenerationally ain't too shabby after all. Don't you think? Intergenerational living? Yeah, it's actually super common now. We're seeing families of all shapes and sizes embracing this. It's like an episode of Full House, but a wee bit more crowded. And a recent study found nearly 1 in 5 Americans live in a multi-generational house. And it really does bring back that whole it takes a village vibe. Now, what does a modern day intergenerational house look like? You might ask. Every family has their own mix, sure. But the formula typically features grandparents, parents, and kiddos under one sweet shared roof. The goal is to create a balance, right? Granny has her own space, the kids have their playroom, and there's a common spot. The kitchen usually, where everyone shares stories over a hot meal. Some families strike gold and find an old house with separate sections for each gene, while others go the full die route, sprucing up basement apartments or cozy in-law suites. But here's where it gets interesting. Intergenerational team ups aren't just happening at home. They're happening in our towns and cities too. Yeah, it's a mad dash revolution, clinging on to those warm core family values we've got. Lots of communities are getting wise to this trend and looking at options like co-housing and structured living arrangements that support multi-generational interaction. They're designing neighborhoods with parks and benches for the grandpas and play areas for the little ones, all within a stone's throw of each other. And it's not all about physical spaces either. Communities are thinking more and more about the services and activities they provide. Imagine a toddler story time in the library that becomes a knit and natter for the grandmas. And we're definitely seeing a shift here. Intergenerational living is now a big, lovely patchwork quilt of ideas rather than the old style, everyone under one small roof situation. So looks like we've come full circle, and family, yet again, is right at the heart of it all. Can't judge a trend that's all about love and togetherness, can ya? You know, a lot of folks view intergenerational living as a ray of sunshine, a ticket back to the good old days when families stuck together come rain or shine. But let's be real here. It ain't always a bed of roses. Some folks raise an eyebrow or two about it. They reckon that it's a tad bit too intense, that there is little privacy, clashing values, and increased risk of tension. With grandma, your kid, and your sibling all under one roof, you bet they may not always see eye to eye. Different generations come with different perspectives, right? And then there are the trials and tribulations faced by these families or communities that decide to give it a go. Being in such close quarters could mean dealing with a multitude of opinions on everything, from how the kids should be raised to what should be on telly tonight. And let's not even start on the financial matters or juggling household chores. It can get overwhelming real quick. Now, these challenges aren't just bumps on the road. They've got some bigger implications. They can stir the pot, leading to shifts in family dynamics, or maybe even a few fireworks now and then. Because see, when 3 or more generations are living together, the line of authority can get kind of blurry, leaving folks uncertain of who's running the show. And the young uns, they might find it difficult to develop independence, especially when it feels like there's always someone breathing down their neck. Don't get me wrong, intergenerational living has its perks, but it's crucial to be aware of the possible uphill battles. But hey, if that's what floats your boat, then more power to yeah. We've all got different strokes for different folks. All right, folks, if you found this yarn helpful in understanding the challenges of intergenerational living, do us a solid and hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more such juicy nuggets of information. Till next time, remember, knowledge is power, so share the wealth.